Act like we're just friends tonight, my ex will be there, she instructed. Okay, I said. At the party her best friend asked what was wrong. I told her we were just friends now. She said, about time, you deserve better. We talked for hours. Then left together. Next morning she showed up at my door crying, her ex wasn't interested. Her best friend answered the door, in my shirt. The Uber pulled up to the curb in front of Faith, a Highline Faye. One of those downtown rooftop bars that charges $20 for a drink with more ice than liquor. I reached for the door handle, but Vanessa grabbed my wrist. Her grip was tight, her nails digging into my skin just a little too hard. Wait, she said, her voice dropping to a frantic whisper. She was checking her reflection in her compact mirror for the 10th time since we left the apartment. Listen, Mark, I need you to do me a huge favor. I looked at her, she looked stunning, I couldn't deny that. She was wearing a silver slip dress that shimmered under the streetlights, but there was a desperation in her eyes that killed the vibe. What is it? I asked, though I had a sinking feeling, I already knew the answer. Julian is going to be up there. She said. Julian was the ex, the one that got away. The brooding architect she still stalked on Instagram at 2 a.m. when she thought I was asleep. He is designing the new wing of the gallery hosting the event. This is a massive networking opportunity for me. Okay, I said slowly. So, go network, I can hold my own. No, you don't get it, she hissed, glancing at the driver who was pretending not to listen. It's complicated, if he sees I'm attached. He might close off, he's weird about that stuff. I need to seem available, just for the vibe, just for tonight. She squeezed my hand, offering a fake, pleading smile. Can we just act like friends, like, you are just my roommate or something, please, don't stand next to me all night, don't put your arm around me. I stared at her, the request hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. 3 years, we had been together for 3 years, and I was being demoted to roommate, so she could flirt with an architect who dumped her over text message back in 2019. Something inside me just clicked off. It wasn't anger, it was simpler than that. It was the sound of a switch flipping from on to off. Okay, I said. My voice was calm, surprisingly calm. Really? She looked relieved, mistaking my detachment for support. You are the best. Seriously, it is just for tonight. Sure, I repeated, just friends. We got out of the car. As soon as we hit the elevator, she physically distanced herself from me, checking her phone, already mentally rehearsing her opening line for Julian. When the doors opened to the rooftop, the bass from the DJ booth hit us. Vanessa scanned the crowd, spotted someone near the VIP section, and didn't even say goodbye. She just vanished into the sea of designer suits and cocktail dresses. I walked over to the bar, found a stool in the corner, and ordered a bourbon. Neat, I watched the room like I was watching a movie I'd already seen the ending to. About 30 minutes later, I saw her. Vanessa was laughing, that high, pitched, fake laugh she used to charm landlords, while touching the arm of a guy in a charcoal blazer. Julian, he looked bored, he was looking over her shoulder, scanning the room for someone more important, but Vanessa was beaming, thinking she was making progress. She looks desperate, you know. I turned. It was Chloe, Vanessa's best friend. She was holding a glass of champagne she hadn't touched. Chloe was different from Vanessa, she was sharp, sarcastic, and didn't care about networking. She was wearing a leather jacket over a vintage tee, looking completely out of place and not caring one bit. Hey, Chloe, I said, taking a sip of my drink. I saw you come in, she said, leaning against the bar next to me. I also saw her ditch you at the elevator like you were luggage. What's the deal, did you guys have a fight? I looked at Vanessa across the room. She was practically hanging off Julian's shoulder now. No fight, I said. She just asked me to give her space. Specifically, she asked me to act like we're just friends so she doesn't spook Julian. Chloe froze. She turned her head slowly to look at me, her eyebrows shooting up. You're kidding. Nope, just friends. That was the instruction. And you agreed. I did, I said, swirling the amber liquid in my glass. In fact, I think it's a great idea, I think we should be friends. Permanently. Chloe studied my face for a second, looking for the hurt, but she only found resolve. A slow smile spread across her face. It wasn't a pity smile, it was genuine respect. About time, Mark, she said, clinking her glass against mine. I've been biting my tongue for a year, you deserve way better than being her backup plan. I think I realized that about 40 minutes ago, I admitted. Well, Chloe set her glass down decisively. Since you are a free agent now, want to get out of here? I know a place down the street that serves actual food and doesn't play techno music. I would love that, I said. We didn't even look for Vanessa on the way out. We left the rooftop, took the elevator down, and walked 3 blocks to a 24-hour diner. We sat in a red vinyl booth, eating chili cheese fries and talking about everything except Vanessa. We talked about music, about Chloe's graphic design job, about how much I hated my commute. It was easy. It was the most natural conversation I'd had in months. We stayed there until 2 a.m. when we finally left. It was raining. My place is closer, I said, opening the umbrella. You can crash on the couch if you don't want to Uber all the way to Queens in this weather. Sounds good, she said. The next morning, the sun was hitting the kitchen counter, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. It was quiet, Peaceful. I was making coffee, the smell of roasted beans filling the apartment. Chloe walked into the kitchen. She had showered and was wearing one of my oversized flannel shirts, her hair still damp and messy. She looked comfortable. She looked like she belonged there. I think I am addicted to your coffee maker. She yawned, hopping up to sit on the counter. Is that Ethiopian roast? Good nose, I smiled, handing her a mug. We were just standing there, sipping coffee and joking about the night before, when a frantic pounding echoed from the front door. It wasn't a knock, it was a demand. My stomach tightened, but not with fear, just annoyance. I got it, I said. I walked down the hallway and unlocked the door. Vanessa was standing there. She looked like a wreck. Her mascara was smeared under her eyes. Her hair was frizzy from the rain, and she was still wearing the silver dress, which was now wrinkled and stained. She was shivering. Mark, she choked out, her voice trembling. She tried to push past me, but I blocked the doorway. Oh my God, it was a nightmare. Julian was such a jerk. He barely looked at me. He left with some model at midnight, and left me there with the bill. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. Looking up at me with wide teary eyes. I need a hug, I need you, I'm so sorry I made you wait. Let me in, I just want to sleep. She moved to step forward again, assuming I would move. I didn't. Mark, she asked, confusion clouding her face. What's wrong? I said. I'm sorry. We're just friends, Vanessa, I said calmly. Remember, friends don't crash at each other's places, unannounced at 9 a.m. What? Stop being petty, I had a horrible night. I didn't, I said. Who are you talking to? Chloe's voice drifted from the kitchen. Vanessa froze. The color drained from her face instantly. She looked over my shoulder, peering into the apartment. Chloe walked into the hallway, holding her mug, wearing nothing but my blue flannel shirt. She stopped next to me, looking at Vanessa with a cool, unbothered expression. Oh, Chloe said, taking a sip of her coffee. Hey, Ness, rough night. Vanessa's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked at Chloe, then at the shirt, my shirt, then at me. The realization hit her like a physical blow. The backup plan wasn't waiting on the shelf anymore. The silence in the hallway was heavy, the kind that rings in your ears. You could hear the hum of the refrigerator from inside the apartment and the distant sound of traffic down on the wet pavement, but right there, between the three of us, the air was vacuum, sealed. Vanessa's eyes darted between us like she was watching a tennis match. She was losing badly. She pointed a shaking finger at Chloe, then at the flannel shirt. That's the shirt I got him for Christmas. Vanessa whispered. Her voice wasn't angry yet, it was just confused, like a child who can't figure out a magic trick. Why are you wearing Mark's Christmas shirt? Chloe didn't flinch. She didn't cross her arms or try to cover up. She just leaned against the doorframe, looking incredibly tired of Vanessa's drama. Because I was cold. Ness, and because Mark offered it to me, Chloe said, her tone flat. Unlike you, he actually asks people if they're okay. You slept with him? Vanessa's voice cracked, rising an octave. The shock was wearing off, replaced by that sharp, defensive venom I knew too well. I leave for Fayo Night Faye to network for my career, and you two hook up. You're supposed to be my best friend. Network, I interrupted. I stepped forward, just an inch, but it forced Vanessa to take a step back. Is that what we're calling it? Because from where I was sitting, at the bar, alone, for 3 hours, it looked a lot like you were auditioning to be Julian's girlfriend again. I was Faye working, Faye the room, she snapped. Tears finally spilling over, cutting tracks through her ruined makeup. I told you, it's complicated with him. I needed to seem available, and you were, I said. You were extremely available, and I was extremely just a friend. I followed your rules, Vanessa, to the letter. That doesn't mean you get to sleep with Faye her Faye. She screamed. A door down the hall creaked open. Mrs. Higgins from 6B peered out, clutching her robe. I didn't care. We didn't sleep together, Chloe said, taking another sip of her coffee casually, like we were discussing the weather. We talked, we ate chili cheese fries, we actually listened to each other. You know, the stuff you guys haven't done since 2021. Vanessa stared at her, her mouth slightly open. The accusation didn't land because she knew it was true. She looked back at me, her expression shifting from anger to a desperate, manipulative softness. This was her go, to move, the pout and pivot. Mark, she whimpered, reaching out to grab my arm. I pulled back, her hand grasped at empty air. Baby please, I'm exhausted, my feet are bleeding from these heels. Can we just talk about this inside? I need to get my makeup remover, I need to lie down. She tried to push past me again, assuming the physical boundary wasn't real. Assuming I was still the doormat she left at the rooftop bar, I put a hand on the doorframe, blocking her path completely. No, I said. She froze. No, you don't live here, Vanessa, you never moved in, remember, you said you needed your own space, in case Julian ever came back to the city. Well, you have your space, it's across town. My face wash is in your bathroom. My sweatpants are in your drawer, I'll put them in a box, I said, I'll leave it with the doorman downstairs later today. You can't do this, she sobbed, the reality finally crashing down on her. Mark, he rejected me, Julian treated me like garbage, I have no one right now. I looked at her, really looked at her, I saw the selfishness, the chaos, The way she only wanted me when she needed a landing pad for her own failures. And for the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel the urge to fix it. That muscle had atrophied overnight. You have friends, I said, echoing the words she told me in the car. Go find one of them. But Chloe is busy. I started to close the door. I hate you, she screamed, the mask fully off now. You're boring. You're a safe, boring, nobody. That's why I never committed. You're a placeholder. I paused just before the latch clicked. Through the gap, I looked her right in the eye. I know, I said, that's why I quit the job. I shut the door, I turned the deadbolt. Fake click, asterisk the sound was final. I stood there in the hallway for a second, staring at the wood grain of the door, listening to her sobbing on the other side. Then, slowly, the sobbing turned into footsteps. Then the elevator dinged. Then, silence. I let out a breath. I felt like I'd been holding for a year. My shoulders dropped 2 inches. I turned around. Chloe was still standing there, holding the mug. She wasn't smiling triumphantly. She looked a little sad. Actually, she knew she'd just lost a best friend, even if that friend was toxic. You okay? She asked softly. I think so, I said, surprised to find it was true. I think I am actually good. She's going to text you, Chloe warned. She's going to send you paragraph after paragraph. She's going to gaslight you into thinking this is your fault because you weren't patient enough. Block button works pretty well, I said, walking past her into the kitchen. I went to the stove and turned the burner back on under the skillet. The eggs were cold, so I scraped them into the trash and cracked 2 fresh ones. The sound of the sizzle filled the quiet space. Chloe followed me in. She hopped back up onto the counter, pulling her knees, my knees, technically, under the flannel, up to her chest. So, she said, watching me cook, now that you are single, and I'm officially the evil traitor best friend. What's the plan for today? I looked up from the stove. The morning sun was brighter now, flooding the kitchen with a harsh, honest light. Well, I said, grabbing the salt shaker. I was thinking we finish breakfast. Then, maybe we figure out what we actually want to do, instead of what we're supposed to do. Chloe smiled. It was a real smile, sharp and bright. I have a car, she said. We could drive out to Montauk. The beach is empty in October. It's windy and freezing and perfect. I hate the beach, I said. I know, she replied. That's why it'll be fun. You can complain about the sand the whole time, and I won't tell you to shut up. I plated the eggs and slid the toast onto the counter next to her. Deal, I said. I picked up my coffee. My phone buzzed on the counter, then it buzzed again, and again, a rapid-fire stream of notifications lighting up the screen. Vanessa flashed across the top, followed by a wall of text. I didn't even look down. I just reached over, flipped the phone face down, and took a bite of toast. We were on the Long Island Expressway, before I finally worked up the nerve to check my phone. Chloe was driving. She had this beat-up Jeep Wrangler that smelled like vanilla and old receipts. The canvas top was flapping loudly in the wind, making it hard to hear the radio, but neither of us minded. It felt like white noise for my brain. I picked up my phone from the cup holder. It was hot to the touch. 37 missed calls, 14 voicemails, and a text thread that looked like a manifesto. I scrolled through them, detached, like I was reading a story about someone else. Asterisk, I can't believe you locked me out. Asterisk, you're stealing my best friend. Asterisk, Julian called me back. By the way, just so you know, I don't need you. Asterisk, please pick up. I'm scared. Asterisk, I hate you. Asterisk, she is cycling, Chloe said, not taking her eyes off the road. She reached over and turned the volume down on the classic rock station. Anger, bargaining, depression, revenge, she's trying to see which button works. The Julian called me back. One is a nice touch, I muttered, tossing the phone into the back seat. She thinks that is the ace up her sleeve. Is it? Chloe glanced at me sideways. Her sunglasses were pushed up into her hair, holding back the wind-blown strands. Yesterday, maybe, I admitted, looking out the window at the blur of strip malls and autumn trees. Today, it just sounds exhausting. I don't care if Julian marries her. I don't want to be the guy waiting in the lobby anymore. We hit Montauk around noon. The town was in that weird quiet lull between the summer rush and the dead of winter. The sky was a bruised purple color, heavy with clouds that looked like they were going to burst any second. We parked near the lighthouse. The wind out there was ferocious. It cut right through my jacket, the jacket I was wearing since Chloe was still in my flannel shirt and leather jacket. We walked down to the rocky beach below the cliffs. The waves were crashing hard, loud and violent, spraying mist everywhere. We found a large piece of driftwood and sat down, watching the Atlantic churn. You know, Chloe shouted over the roar of the ocean, hugging her knees to her chest. I always hated how she treated you. I used to tell her, I'd say, Mark is a catch, stop trying to upgrade him. Yeah right, I laughed, picking up a smooth gray stone. You barely spoke to me for 3 years, because I wasn't allowed to. She shot back, a playful grin on her face. Vanessa had rules. Don't get too close to Mark, he is mine. Don't laugh too hard at Mark's jokes, it encourages him. She gatekept you, Mark. I threw the stone into the water, it didn't skip, it just plunked and vanished. Why did you stay friends with her? I asked, It was the question that had been bugging me all night. Chloe's smile faded. She looked out at the horizon, her expression turning serious. Habit, she said softly. We've known each other since kindergarten. When you have that much history, you forgive a lot of bad behavior. You keep thinking the old version of them is going to come back. But, I think the old Vanessa is gone, or maybe she never existed. She turned to me, shivering slightly in the cold air. I guess I was waiting in the lobby too. The words hung between us, heavier than the salt air. We were two refugees from the same war, sitting on a log at the end of the world. Well, I said, shifting closer to block the wind for her. We checked out, yeah, we did. She leaned her head on my shoulder. It was a small gesture, hesitant at first, like she was testing the waters. When I didn't pull away, she settled in. It didn't feel like a friend move. It felt like something else entirely, something scary and new. My phone buzzed again from inside my pocket, a long sustained vibration, a call. I ignored it. So, Chloe said, her voice muffled against my coat. What happens when we go back? We can't hide in Montauk forever. Eventually, we have to go back to the apartment. She has a key, Mark. I'll change the locks, I said instantly. And the social circle, she asked. Liam, Sarah, the whole crew. She's going to spin this. She's going to make herself the victim. She's probably already telling everyone we've been having a secret affair for months. I looked down at her. The wind had whipped some color into her cheeks. Her eyes were bright, intelligent, and looking at me with an intensity that made my heart hammer against my ribs. Let her spin it, I said. Let her tell whatever story she wants. I am done auditioning for a role in her life. And what role are you auditioning for now? Chloe asked. It was a loaded question. The air around us seemed to tighten. I looked at her lips, then up to her eyes. The distance between just friends and whatever this was felt microscopic. I don't know, I whispered. I haven't read the script for this part yet. Chloe lifted her head off my shoulder. She turned her body toward me on the log. She reached out, her cold fingers brushing against my hand, tracing the line of my knuckles. Maybe we improvise, she said. She started to lean in. I started to lean in. The world narrowed down to just the sound of the waves and the smell of her vanilla shampoo. Then, my pocket vibrated again, and again, and again. Chloe pulled back an inch, glancing down at my pocket. She let out a sharp dry laugh. She is persistent, I'll give her that, Chloe said. It is not a call, I realized, feeling the pattern of the buzz. It is an alarm. I pulled the phone out. It wasn't Vanessa, it was a calendar notification I had set weeks ago. Fair reminder, Vanessa's birthday dinner, 7 p.m., the reservation you fought for. Asterisk. I stared at the screen. Today was her birthday. I had completely forgotten. The dress, the rooftop, the networking. She had done all of that on the eve of her birthday, prioritizing her ex over me even then. What is it? Chloe asked, seeing the look on my face. I turned the screen so she could see it. Chloe read the notification. Her eyes went wide. Oh, she said. Oh, wow. That makes what she did last night so much worse. And it makes what we're doing right now. I trailed off. Complicated, Chloe suggested. I was going to say justified. I replied. I looked at the notification one last time. Fate is miss, asterisk you know, I said, standing up, and offering a hand to help her up. I have a reservation at Le Cuco for tonight, non-refundable deposit. Chloe took my hand, her grip firm and warm. Le Cuco, she raised an eyebrow. That's way too fancy for flannel. Who cares? I grinned, pulling her up. It is someone's birthday dinner, shame to let it go to waste. We started walking back toward the car, the gravel crunching under our boots. But as we reached the parking lot, I saw another car parked right next to Chloe's Jeep. It was a black sedan, engine running. The driver's side window rolled down slowly. My chest tightened. I knew that car, and I definitely knew the guy sitting in the driver's seat. It was Liam. Of course, it was Liam. He was the Swiss Army knife of Vanessa's friend group, part peacekeeper, part errand boy, part emotional punching bag. He was driving his dad's Audi, looking completely out of place against the rugged Montauk backdrop in his pristine limited edition sneakers. He killed the engine and stepped out. The wind immediately assaulted his perfectly styled hair. He looked miserable. Don't shoot the messenger, Liam shouted over the wind, raising his hands in surrender as he approached us. Chloe groaned, leaning her head back against the roll bar of her Jeep. She sent a search party. You have got to be kidding me. How did you even find us? I asked, stepping in front of Chloe slightly. The instinct to protect her was new, but it felt like it had been there for years. Liam pulled his phone out, showing a map with a blinking blue dot. Snap map. Bro, you never turned off your location sharing with the group chat. I cursed under my breath. I forgot I was even in that group chat. She muted me 3 months ago because I posted too many memes. Yeah, well, she unmuted you today, Liam said, shivering. He looked from me to Chloe, and then at the flannel shirt Chloe was wearing. His eyes widened. He did the math instantly. Okay, wow, so the rumors are true. Vanessa is texting everyone saying you guys eloped or joined a cult. We're eating chili fries and looking at the ocean. Liam, Chloe said, crossing her arms. It is not a conspiracy, it is a mental health break. Look, Liam sighed, scuffing his sneaker against a rock. She is losing it, Mark. Like, actually spiraling. She's at your apartment building. She's sitting in the lobby crying to the doorman. Ralph is texting me. It's a whole thing. She wants you to come back. She says she forgives you. She forgives Fei. I let out a short, sharp laugh that sounded harsh even to my own ears. That is rich. She treats me like an accessory for 3 years, demotes me to friend, so she can hook up with Julian, and now she forgives me for leaving. I know, Liam said, holding his hands up again. I was there, man, I saw her with Julian. It was painful to watch, but it's her birthday, Mark, she's terrified of being alone on her birthday. You know how she gets about the milestones. I looked at Liam, he was a good guy, fundamentally, he just had a bad habit of enabling bad behavior because he hated conflict. Liam, I said, my voice steady, I have a reservation tonight at Le Cuco. For 2, Liam blinked. Yeah, for her birthday. No, I said, reaching out and taking Chloe's hand. I interlaced our fingers right there in front of him. I have a reservation. Vanessa isn't invited. Liam stared at our joined hands, the wind howled around us, kicking up dust. He looked at Chloe, who was staring him down with a challenge in her eyes, and then back at me. A slow look of understanding, and maybe a little envy, crossed his face. Le Cuco, huh? Liam said quietly. That's the place with the Pike quenelles she wouldn't stop talking about for 6 months. The very same, I said. Liam let out a long breath, rubbing the back of his neck. He looked back at his dad's Audi, then back at us. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and tapped the screen a few times. What are you doing? Chloe asked. I am telling her I couldn't find you, Liam said, sliding the phone back into his pocket. I am telling her the snap map must have been glitching. Maybe you guys went to Jersey. Nobody goes to Jersey, so she won't look there. He looked at me, a small, genuine smile forming. Get the Pike, Mark, and turn your damn location off. Thanks, Liam, I said. Happy birthday too. Well, nobody we know, he muttered. He turned around, got back in the Audi, and reversed out of the lot. We watched him drive away until the black car disappeared around the bend of the lighthouse road. He is a better friend than she deserves, Chloe said softly. Yeah, I agreed. I pulled my phone out and finally permanently disabled location services. Then I blocked Vanessa's number. Ready to go back to the city? To the Lion's Den, she asked. To dinner, I corrected. The drive back to Manhattan was different. The silence wasn't just comfortable anymore, it was charged. We listened to a synth wave playlist Chloe liked, her hand resting on the center console. My hand occasionally brushing hers when I changed gears. We hit the city limits around 5 p.m. The skyline was gray and rainy, the buildings looking like jagged teeth against the sky. We have a problem, Chloe said as we merged onto the FDR drive. I am currently dressed like a lumberjack who got lost in the East Village. I can't go to Le Cuco like this. And I can't go back to my apartment to change, I said. If Ralph the doorman is compromised, Vanessa is probably camped out on my welcome mat. My place, Chloe suggested. It is in Brooklyn. It is a trek, but it is a safe zone. Let's do it. Chloe's apartment in Williamsburg was exactly what you'd expect. Chaotic, colorful, and full of life. It was the polar opposite of the beige, curated aesthetic Vanessa had forced onto my apartment. Chloe had vintage movie posters, a stack of vinyl records that was actually played, and a cat named Buster, who immediately judged me from the top of the refrigerator. Okay, Chloe said, throwing her keys in a bowl. I have 45 minutes to turn into a Cinderella who eats French food. She looked me up and down. You look fine, maybe just less wind blown. She disappeared into her bedroom. I stood in the living room, feeling strangely at home. I walked over to her bookshelf. It was stuffed with graphic novels, design annuals, and surprisingly, a framed photo of the three of us, me, Vanessa, and Chloe, from a beach trip 2 years ago. In the photo, Vanessa was in the center, posing for the camera, doing that duck face she thought was ironic, but was actually just vanity. I was looking at Vanessa, but Chloe was on the edge of the frame, looking at me. I stared at the photo. I had never noticed it before. She had been looking at me the whole time. Okay, don't laugh. Chloe's voice came from the hallway. I turned around. She walked out wearing a dark emerald green jumpsuit with a plunging neckline. It was sleek, sophisticated, and completely different from the leather jacket, cool, girl vibe she usually projected. She had pulled her hair back, revealing the sharp line of her jaw. I didn't laugh. I think I forgot to breathe for a solid 4 seconds. Wow, I said. Too much? She asked, fidgeting with the strap. I bought this for a wedding last year and never wore it because Vanessa told me green wasn't my color. Vanessa was lying, I said, walking over to her. She was lying to eliminate the competition. Chloe blushed, a rare sight. Well, let's go eat her birthday dinner. Le Cuco was dimly lit, smelling of brown butter and expensive perfume. The maitre d' checked his list, paused when he saw my name, and then looked up with a professional smile that didn't quite hide his surprise. Ah, monsieur, table for 2. Yes, I said. And we'll take the corner booth if it is still open. Of course, as we walked through the dining room, I felt a phantom tension. I had spent 3 years walking into rooms like this behind Vanessa, holding her purse while she greeted people she didn't like. I was used to being the plus one. Tonight, I walked in with my hand on the small of Chloe's back. Heads turned, not because we were loud, but because we looked aligned. We looked like a unit. We sat down. The waiter poured the wine. We ordered the pike quenelles. We ordered the duck. We ordered things I didn't know how to pronounce. Midway through the appetizers, Chloe put her fork down. You know, she said, her eyes dancing in the candlelight. If Vanessa walked in right now, this would be the season finale of a reality show. Don't jinx it, I said, buttering a piece of bread. But honestly, if she walked in right now, I don't think I'd care. That is the weirdest part. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel scared. I just feel done. Closure, Chloe said, it is a hell of a drug. Speaking of closure, I said, taking a sip of wine. I need to ask you something. In the car, you said you were waiting in the lobby too. What did you mean? Chloe swirled her wine glass, watching the red liquid coat the sides. She took a deep breath. I mean that watching you with her was torture. Mark, you were so patient, so kind, you did everything right, and she treated you like a placeholder. I hated her for it, but I also hated myself because I kept hoping you'd wake up, and I felt guilty for hoping that your relationship would fail. She looked up at me, her gaze vulnerable. I tried to date other guys, I tried to ignore it, but every time we all hung out, I just saw how much better fate you deserved. And I wondered if maybe better could be me. I reached across the table and took her hand. The restaurant noise faded into the background. I am awake now, I said. She squeezed my hand. Good, the moment was perfect, cinematic. And then, because the universe has a twisted sense of humor, the maitre d' approached our table. He looked uncomfortable. Monsieur, he whispered, I apologize for the interruption, but there is a delivery, for the table. My stomach dropped. A delivery, a bottle of champagne, he said, from the gentleman at the bar. I turned my head slowly. Chloe turned hers. At the far end of the bar, nursing a whiskey, sat a man in a charcoal blazer. He wasn't looking at us. He was looking at his phone, looking bored. It was Julian, the architect, the catalyst, the guy from the rooftop. You have got to be kidding me, Chloe whispered. Is this a set-up? Is he stalking us now? I looked at the waiter. Did he say anything? He said, happy birthday to the one who got away, the waiter said, looking confused. He seemed to think the lady was someone else from the back. I looked at Julian again. He was staring at the back of Chloe's head, from the back, with her hair up. She looked a little like Vanessa. The height was the same, the posture was similar. Julian thought I was here with Vanessa. He thought he was sending a smug ironic birthday drink to the ex he had rejected last night, probably to toy with her head one last time. I looked at Chloe. She realized it at the same time I did. A slow, mischievous grin spread across her face. He thinks I am her, she whispered. He thinks he is buying Vanessa a drink to rub it in. He is trying to play games, I said, a cold calm washing over me. He rejected her last night, and now that he sees her with me, or thinks he does, he wants to insert himself back into the narrative. It is an ego thing. Well, Chloe said, picking up her wine glass. We can't let good champagne go to waste, can we? What are you thinking? I am thinking, Chloe said, standing up, that we should go thank him. Chloe, I warned, but I was smiling. Trust me, she took my hand. We walked across the dining room toward the bar. Julian was still looking at his phone, swirling his ice. He sensed movement and started to turn, a smirk already forming on his lips. He was expecting Vanessa's teary eyes or her angry face. He turned fully. Happy birthday, Van, the words died in his throat. He found himself looking at Chloe, beaming with a radiant, dangerous smile, and me, standing beside her, looking more confident than he had ever seen me. Julian, Chloe said, her voice bright and loud enough to carry, so sweet of you. But my birthday is actually in June, you must have me confused with someone else. Julian blinked. He looked at Chloe, he looked at me, he looked at the empty space where Vanessa should be. The smooth, arrogant architect stuttered, Chloe, Mark. We're having a great night though, I added, leaning one elbow on the bar next to him. Thanks for the champagne, although, we're really more into red wine tonight. Champagne is a little superficial, don't you think? Julian's face went through a complex series of contortions, confusion, embarrassment, and then the realization that he was the only person in this triangle who didn't know what was going on. Where is she? Julian asked, his voice dropping. She told me she had a reservation here. She texted me 10 minutes ago saying she was waiting for me. I froze. She texted you? I asked. Yeah, Julian pulled up his phone. She said. I am at Le Cuco, waiting for you, please come. That's why I bought the bottle. I thought she was. Well, I saw you two in the corner and assumed. She lured him here, Chloe realized, her eyes widening. She knew the reservation wasn't cancelled. She knew we might be here. She sent Julian here to, what? Cause a scene. To blow it up, I said. If she can't have the dinner, nobody can. At that exact moment, The front door of the restaurant opened, a cold gust of wind blew into the warm foyer. Standing in the entryway, dripping wet from the rain, wearing a trench coat over pajamas, was Vanessa. She looked wild. Her eyes scanned the room frantically. She spotted Julian at the bar. She spotted me. She spotted Chloe in the green jumpsuit. The restaurant went quiet. The silence of expensive dining was replaced by the silence of impending doom. Vanessa marched into the dining room. The maitre d' tried to intercept her. "Madam, please, your coat," she sighed, stepped him like a linebacker. She walked straight up to the three of us at the bar. She looked at Julian. "You came." She looked at me. "You stole my reservation." She looked at Chloe. "You stole my life." She was vibrating with energy. It was terrifying and tragic all at once. "Vanessa," I said, stepping in front of Chloe again. "You need to leave, you are making a scene." "A scene," she laughed, a high, pitched, brittle sound. "I am the birthday girl, I can make a scene if I want, I planned this whole night." This was supposed to be Family Fay night. Julian was supposed to realize he made a mistake, and you were supposed to be the backup plan that I went home to and cried on. She covered her mouth, realizing she had said the quiet part out loud. Julian let out a low whistle. "Backup plan? Ouch. Shut up, Julian," she snapped. "You are just as bad, you toyed with me." "I told you I wasn't interested," Julian said, holding up his hands. "You are the one who texted me lying about being here alone." "I am here," she screamed. "And I am alone." She grabbed the bottle of champagne from the bar, the one Julian had ordered. "I am taking this," she announced, "and I am leaving." She spun around, the bottle clutched to her chest like a baby. She took 3 steps toward the door, slipped on the wet floor from her own raincoat, and went down. It wasn't a funny fall, it was a hard, heavy crash. The bottle of champagne shattered. Glass flew everywhere, foam exploded across the floor, the entire restaurant gasped. Vanessa sat there in the puddle of expensive champagne and broken glass. She didn't move, she just sat there, the trench coat soaking up the liquid. For a second, nobody moved. Then, Chloe stepped forward. She didn't look angry anymore, she just looked sad. "Mark," she whispered, "help her up." I looked at Vanessa, she was sobbing now, quiet, broken sobs into her hands. I walked over, I crunched over the glass, I reached a hand down. "Come on, Ness," I said quietly. She looked up at me, her eyes were ruined. For a second, I saw the girl I fell in love with 3 years ago, the one who was insecure and needed reassurance. But then I saw the rest of it, the manipulation, the cruelty, the selfishness. She reached for my hand, her grip was slippery with champagne. I pulled her up, she was shaking. "You are coming home with me, right?" she whispered, leaning into me, smelling of rain and alcohol. "We can fix this, I am hurt, Mark, I am bleeding." I looked down at her leg, there was a tiny scratch, barely a paper cut. "I'll call you an Uber, Vanessa," I said. "What?" She pulled back. "Number, you have to take me home." "I can't," I said. "I am in the middle of dinner. With Faye." She pointed a trembling finger at Chloe. "With my girlfriend," I said. The word just came out. I hadn't planned it. I hadn't cleared it with Chloe, but it hung in the air, solid and true. Chloe's eyes widened slightly, then softened. Julian raised his eyebrows and took a sip of his drink. Vanessa stared at me. The last bit of fight drained out of her. She realized, finally, that the script had been rewritten, and she wasn't the main character anymore. "Fine," she whispered, "fine." She turned and walked out of the restaurant, glass crunching under her bare feet. She had lost a shoe in the fall and left it there. She pushed through the heavy doors and vanished into the rain. The maitre d' hurried over with a dustpan. "I am so sorry, monsieur, I will call the police if you wish." "No," I said, "just put the champagne on my tab." "On mine," Julian corrected. He stood up, buttoning his blazer. He looked at me with a strange expression. "Respect, maybe. I bought the bottle, I paid for the show. It is the least I can do." He put a $100 bill on the bar. "You guys make a good team," Julian said, nodding at Chloe. "She was always too much for me, and clearly, too much for you. Good luck." He walked out, leaving us alone in the middle of the staring crowd. I turned to Chloe, the adrenaline was starting to fade, leaving my hands shaking slightly. "Girlfriend, huh?" Chloe asked, a slow smile spreading across her face. "I improvised," I said, "too much." "Just enough," she said. She took my hand and pulled me back toward our table. "Come on," she said, "our quenelles are getting cold, and I think we have a lot to talk about." We sat back down. The restaurant slowly returned to its hum of conversation, though people were still stealing glances at us. I didn't care. I looked at Chloe across the candlelight. She looked beautiful, strong, and real. "So," I said, picking up my fork. "What happens tomorrow?" "Tomorrow," Chloe cut a piece of duck. "Tomorrow we change your locks, we get my cat, and maybe we go back to Montauk." I didn't get enough time by the ocean. "I hate the beach," I reminded her. "I know," she smiled, kicking my foot gently under the table. "That is why it is going to be fun." I took a bite of the food. It was the best meal I had ever had. Outside, the rain continued to wash the city clean, but inside, everything was warm. The story wasn't over. The fallout with our mutual friends would be messy. Vanessa wouldn't disappear quietly, she would wage a digital war, there would be awkward run-ins and divided loyalties, but as I looked at Chloe laughing at something I said, I realized I didn't care about the plot twists anymore. I had finally found the right co-star. Hey, Chloe said, pausing with her glass halfway to her lips. You realize you are wearing my shirt now, right? I looked down, I was still wearing the flannel she had returned to me in the car, and she was in the green jumpsuit. Technically, I said, it is Fei Fei's shirt. She clinked her glass against mine. Deal.